from Warsenal Studio B in Chandler, Arizona, this is MayaCast. Welcome to another edition of MayaCast. I'm your host, Tom Shadle.
And I'm your host, Skip Arso.
And this is episode 302 for Friday, November 27th, 2020. Never gonna get it. Coming up on today's show, Kip and I will be breaking down the breakdown as we delve into... That would have been a better name for the show. As we get into the brand new, hot off the presses, ITS Season 12 new mission pack that just dropped this week. Of course, Kip...
Yeah.
I don't know why we're doing this, because we apparently haven't learned our lesson to not talk about things the week that they come out. Last week, we were so excited. We did our Steel Phalanx review because they had just dropped hot off the presses 2 days before we recorded, and we were all excited because Myrmidons could form a fire team of just Myrmidons, and Thracatai could form a fire team of just Thracatai, and they didn't need Nesse Alke, and the Myrmidons didn't need Machion or Ajax or Phoenix or anybody. And then on Saturday, the day after the podcast released, they updated Army and took away Fireteam Enematarkos from Myrmidons and Thracatai.
You're welcome, community. We effed it up for everyone.
And so now it's back to, yes, you do need a character to make the thing. And so it was this glorious moment of, wow, Steel Phalanx can now actually really, they can get their order count up because they don't have to buy all these expensive characters to have their multiple fire teams. And it was looking really good. And then poof. I mean... I don't know why I expect a company in their 12th year of official tournament rundowns, and what is it? How old are they? 15 years? 20 years old?
Like 15.
I don't know why I would expect when they release something that it would be, correct and final and ready to go. But nope. As soon as they put something out, it changes. And frankly, that's why I'm not like... You were just talking about to wind down at the end of the day. You start making army lists or whatever to get your mind off stuff, and I don't, because it's the exact opposite. It's extremely stressful for me because it's I don't know if that's going to exist tomorrow. So
and Corvus itself is older than that. It's just Infinity's been around for 15 years.
Yeah,
because it was Fair's dad's before that with the historical documents.
Miniatures, but yes.
But I agree. I was... It's just funny because we released and it's like, oh, crap, that's not supposed to be there. So it changed, and that was a bummer. I mean, it's... in all reality, the lists I was making, it doesn't really change them at all. But in the grand scheme of things, that was one of the things I was most excited about because of what you just said, like the order counts and everything we said on the show. I thought it was far better, a far better way to structure that army to kind of combat the way Toha was too, because they were basically the Aleph version of Toha at that point. Because as long as you had because everybody has Enematarkos and you could just form them without the leaders. Because with Toha, you just have to have Triad. So you could have all Camille's or all this. There's a lot more.
Well, I think the thing with Triad versus Enematarkos is that you can have one of these and one of these and one of these and make a Triad instead of Enematarkos where they're all Myrmidons. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is it gave you a little bit more leeway because you didn't have to put the expensive characters in so you could actually get more. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. It's something that we just go back to the way it was. Just a little cheaper, and the army lists that I've made, I'm way happier with. They're really fun. I can now run I call it the list on my little cloud version is "We Could Be Heroes." If you remember that little Wallflower song. If you notice, we do a lot of musical
David Bowie, but okay.
Yeah. Oh no! So was that a remake? Because I was talking about the Wallflower song for just one day. I didn't know if that was a
David Bowie
remake. Wow, that was a remake of Dave Bodie. I suck. The Goblin King will punish me in my dreams tonight.
It's all right. No, it's different generations. I know
That
David
was the
Bowie,
first
you
time
know
I'd
the
ever-
Wallflowers, and then
I was in junior high.
somebody younger than you might be like, oh yeah, from Moulin Rouge.
Right?
It's all good.
But with that one, I got to fit Andromeda in that list now, which is super cool. So
awesome.
It is what it is.
And yes, Atalanta's still disgusting, but Tusser still has the completely useless triangulated fire.
Yeah, for that 8 inches that you might need it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you run into that elk.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so today, ITS Season 12 breakdown. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the tournament structure, right? We're not going to talk about any specific missions, right? We'll do a separate show for each of the 2 new missions later on, so we're not going to do anything mission specific, but we're going to talk about the basic, like what the changes to the basic structure of ITS. And so, without further ado, let's get into ITS Season 12 breakdown.
Requesting evac. Repeat, requesting evac.
Control systems report considerable damage and casualties.
You rolled a crit?
Mission debrief. All right, so what's going on? Last season we had Stakeout, and the Shazvasti infiltrators went from Novi Bangkok. They infiltrated the Concilium system, which is the home of O12, the very seat of all of humanity. And so now we enter Season 12 breakdown, and the Combined Army has now formed a beachhead on Helheim, which is the Antarctic continent of Concilium Prime, and they are, reaching out from there and attacking actually a human planet, not like Paradiso, which was kind of this, jungle planet that we've been fighting over for 15 years of game time, which is sort of out there, but like actually one of our major planets, the cradle of our government. And they're there and they're attacking, and it's happening because none of the human sphere nations can get together and agree and cooperate. They all still want to fight their own internecine wars, and we all suffer for it. So they're there because they believe, if you remember back in Campaign Paradiso, was the whole story of the Toha. It's where Toha came out and they were introduced for the first time, the original Campaign Paradiso. And it was this big fight because of this Zeki digester, this alien artifact that's on the planet, and everybody's fighting over it. And so eventually humanity absconded with it, they escaped with it, and they hid it somewhere, and it was under the code name Penny Arcade, right? And so the Combined Army is on Concilium because they believe that is the planet where humanity has hidden the Penny Arcade, the Zeki digester, which was recovered on Paradiso, which they will stop at nothing to recover because their whole shtick is that they are trying to achieve transcendence. They're on this quest for transcendence, and they believe that the cultural secrets of millennia buried within the Zeki digester will help them lead to transcendence. So that is the little fluff blurb for this season 12 breakdown.
You know what's funny too is as I was reading that, there's that story that's going out, and we can thank the Salt Lake Showdown for this, and the Lore of Infinity, how they found that giant metal monolith in the middle of the desert in Utah. Have you seen that?
Yep.
Like the 2001. And apparently it's been there forever because Reddit people are coming out and be like, it's been on Google Earth for a long time. As season 12 comes out, and we're talking about the digesters, it just cracked me up because that story broke, and I was like, okay, so Stanley Kubrick knew this was going on, and apparently these monoliths have been all over the universe because that's what the Combined Army is coming for. So we need to hide that thing like quick because that's the Penny Arcade of Earth. That just was running through my mind. I thought that was a really funny coincidence that story broke as we're talking about that humanity found their first digester that was recording all of this stuff from that previous civilization that had went across the universe. So pretty funny.
It's just a giant jewel.
Yeah.
JUUL. So all right, onto the mission pack, onto season 12 breakdown and new and changed rules. They have changed, possibly the biggest change. They have changed the tournament point scoring. So for the longest bit of time, it was 3 points for a major victory, 2 points for a minor victory, 1 point for a tie, 0 points if you lost, and that was it, right? We've got a whole brand new chart for tournament points based on the results of your game. Your games are decided, of course, by your objective points. Who scores the most objective points, and whoever scores the most objective points wins. And so they are the victor. A victory now gets you 3 objective points. A tie only gets you 1 objective point, and a loss gets you 0 objective points. However, there are 2 bonus points that can be had for people that played really close games or did a lot of stuff. The first one is the offensive bonus. If you score at least 5 objective points in the game, whether you win or lose, if you score 5 objective points during that game, you get +1 tournament point. And so a victor who gets 3 that scored at least 5 will have 4 for that victory, right? A loser who gets 0 but did all of the things and fought really hard, and got 6 objective points but lost, they're going to get 1 objective point for that instead of the 0 for a loss. And then there is the defensive bonus, where if you lose by 2 or less objective points, so it's an 8-6 game, right? You get +1 point. And that is your reward for playing a really close game, trying really hard, being neck and neck with your opponent and not getting blown out. So, a 10-0 victory used to be 3 points for the victor, 0 points for the loser. And now a 10-0 victory is 4 points for the victor, 0 points for the loser. But that 8-7 victory, right, used to be 3 points for the winner, 0 points for the loser. And now it's going to be 4 points for the victor and 2 points for the loser, because they're going to get the offensive bonus and the defensive bonus for getting enough objective points and losing it close. What I haven't done that I'd like to do is go through all of the missions and go through all the scoring and see, because some of them are very zero-sum, where it's like, if I get 8, the most you can have is 2 kind of thing. There are other ones where you can absolutely end like 8-7. And so I haven't been able to go through yet and try and figure out all the scoring to see what possibilities there are. But, how many missions can you get? Can you lose but still get an offensive and defensive bonus kind of thing? But I am a very big fan of this because it does reward someone who just barely lost more than someone who just got blown the heck out. And it rewards someone for getting all of the objective points more than it does for somebody who won 1-0 in rescue. Sorry, that's me. I think 1 is my highest score in rescue. And, it rewards getting more objective points. It rewards close games. So it keeps people engaged all the way through their game, even if they're losing. To try and get up to 5 objective points, to try and only lose by 2, it encourages, what it should have been encouraging all the time, which is stopping you from getting objective points while I am also trying to get my objective points. So I really like it a lot. Kip, what are your thoughts?
No, it's the same. I love it. So I like that. One thing I love about our people over at Corvus is they're always looking for ways to improve. Like we can complain about some of the rules things or not getting things in line, which I was a little upset about the still phalanx, but it's fine because they're always kind of forward thinking this way. Like when it comes to improving on the overall worldwide player experience. And I'm cool with that. If they keep focusing on how to improve the tournament system, because that tends to be the norm. Like, I'm cool with the mishaps on the army or whatever, because those are just such minor speed bumps compared to this. Now, we are fortunate enough, and it is, in America at least, Thanksgiving yesterday when you hear this. So I'm very thankful that a lot of the players in our region, not even our state or city, but our region, are traveling tournament players. Because we have a very large community that just kind of banded together, not only across the entire United States, but we just call it, that Southwest Super Meta that we
Southwest Super Meta.
That includes California as well. But I love that we have the opportunity to do that. So having that opportunity to play in all these tournaments, this is probably one of the biggest and best things I've ever seen happen to ITS, because it does separate the pack a lot more. And I think that, the ELO system, when they started ranking people, it works because in the beginning, ITS was like, whoever plays the most tournaments is going to win. It was just simply whoever turned the most results in.
Yep.
The ELO system helps with that, but yet you get more points for playing more. It gives you extra points for beating people ahead of you. So it kind of helped with that a little bit, a lot of it actually. But it wasn't just like whoever had the access to most tournaments won. Now this being in a system, like the way this is gonna kind of disrupt the norm is amazing to me, because there's a lot of people that lose very close games. But when you get got grouped into the basically the original scoring was like binary, right? With no other variables. Where it's like you either lose, win, or you lose by this, and that's it. Well, adding these two variables in to accommodate for close games is like pulling that information of like, well, that 10-0 loss wasn't as, like that's a 3-0, whereas this other loss, that loser should be ranked higher than the zero loser, which is great because it rewards you for playing hard the whole time. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to really affect
the objective point tiebreaker sort of addressed that, in that if you have 3 players with 0 tournament points, whoever got the most objective points is going to be the highest out of those 3. But what this really addresses, I think, is the guy who he loses game 1 9-8, he loses game 2 8-6, he loses game 3 10-5, right? And so he's lost all 3. He's going to have 0 points. He's going to be at the bottom, right? But there might be a guy who tied 3 times that the other guy has more objective points than. And so this, scoring 2 points a game instead of 1 point a game, this guy's going to be much higher up than the guy who tied all 3 games, but never breached 5 objective points. So do the things, get the objective points is the motivation here.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, is the fact of you could have a couple of, and I defaulted to Rumble, because there's Rumbles to where it's the biggest one in the world sometimes, but definitely in the United States, and there's times you win by a slim margin, but then the times that I've lost have all been by a slim margin. But when you just get 0 points, and it's the same as somebody that just didn't do anything, it really helps to even that playing field on the points. So you get a little bit more of an accurate view of the playing field on who is actually playing the mission well, even if you lose. I think when I played Cody last year, our first round was like, he beat me 7-5. That's huge in this. I only got 2 points for that instead of 0.
Exactly.
And then my last loss was against you, where you beat me 9-0, so that wouldn't have changed a damn thing. But still, it's like that's 2 extra points that would have gone down. And it's like how many other players that might have even had 2 or 3 losses, there would have been a bunch ahead of a bunch of people that lost the same amount or tied the same amount because they played so close. So it completely changes the playing field.
And you have to remember that the person who won is still getting way more tournament points than you got because they won, right? You're like,
winning is still key.
Why should you get 2 points if you lost 7-5, right? Well, the first player's getting 4 because he won and got 7 points, right? He's still beating you by 2 tournament points, and you're still going to be a different bracket on the next round. So I think it'd be really interesting if I can.
Winning got better. Like if you win, it got better. It's got way better.
Close losses got better. High scoring got better. Winning got better. I'd like to see if I can find some old tournament results from nothing like Armageddon. I'm not going to go through an entire Armageddon, but one of our local 10-man, 12-man tournaments, and redo the tournament point scoring with the new format to see what would have changed up, and if it's to make sure that we're looking at it on paper, it's rewarding all the things we want it to reward. So I'm going to go through some old tournaments and rescore them and see that actually really works. To reward those people who were super close or scoring a lot of points but just kept losing.
You know what's really funny that you say this because, and I actually want to give a shout out to everybody who's been emailing me or messaging me about the references that I've been making because my life revolves around making sure my kids are fed and then school. That's all I do. But literally the last 3 days, we just started working with SQLs, which is pulling information from databases. And if I was really good at it, I would be I would ask for 1 Rumble's worth of information. Because if I was fast enough, I could probably do that really quick. Because that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 3 days is pulling those in, just writing code to pull information like that. Because you can just write it as you pull these scores with a sum, and if this is this, then it comes out to this result, which is super fun and awesome. But it would be way easier than going and doing it by hand. You know what I mean?
Well, I could say you could just ask Alan Emlet for that information, but it would take him a month to put it in. So
you deserve that, Alan, for all of the trolls that you give us. But I'm not that good yet.
Next new tidbit are the tournament tiers, and in past years you could play a 200-point tournament, a 300-point tournament, or a 400-point tournament, right? And so they still have low, mid, high, but the high is 400 full stop, whereas the mid tier is 300 or 250, and then the low tier is 200 or 150. So it gives you a lot more flexibility, right? Of what size games you want to play. You could do, so you're not locked into those round numbers. If you have a beginning crew that has just moved from Code 1 to their first N4 action, and you're all playing at 150 points, you can wrap up that little learning league at the end of 4 weeks, say, with a 150-point tournament instead of, I think it was 2, 3, 4. Or was it 150, 3, 2? I forget what the old tiers were. Anyway, you get to choose 150, 200, 250, 300, 400 as your point totals. A little more flexibility to TOs when determining tiers. Great for growth because over the course of a year, you can do all of those, right? And build your forces and build a whole league around expanding your armies, making purchases in the store, getting things painted, and learning the rules.
Yeah, it might seem like a minor thing, but that's one of my little notes here was those flexibilities. You like that? Did I show you that, Tom?
You showing me your legal pad is excellent radio.
Well, I just wanted you to see my handwriting, because sometimes I write really nice, and just looking at it makes me feel good.
Wow.
It's like drawing.
It's very pretty.
It's therapeutic. It's therapeutic for my, but I like that there's that flexibility being able to score the same points as a 300 point. So looking at it from like veterans or like that probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but to a new growing community, it is. Like, say you have a lot of people that are more competitive at like the 200 to 250 point level, right? And maybe they want to run one of the new escalating tournaments where you get the same scoring for escalating, and they do the first two rounds at 200, and then you get to add your new 50 points that you just bought and painted, but that round is scored at a higher level. It's really cool.
I got more thoughts on the escalation when we get to the extras, but
okay.
But I think it's a groovy idea to have, like, you know, each month, once you're allowed to be in places where you can game and have tournaments and things, or perhaps you're from a country with that had responsible leadership, like New Zealand and Australia, where life is pretty much back to normal there, and they are able to do these things. I think it's a groovy idea to be like, okay, so February, we're going to play 150 point games at the shop on our weekly, or at the club for our weekly game night. And so we're going to play 150 points. We're going to do these 3 missions. And then on week 4, you do a tournament on the weekend where you do a 150 point tournament. Now March comes around, do the same thing, but you're up to 200 points. And so you play your practice games on your weekly game night at 200 points with the 3 missions that make up your tournament at 200 points. And then you can do a 250 and then a 300 and then 400, bring all the things. As long as you don't go over 15 models. So I think that's neat.
It is. And the 250 thing is the one that got me, because it's like, now there's no longer that standard of, well, this is my 300 point list. It's like, well, maybe in some areas 250 is a lot more doable with whatever armies are popular there. Like, that's kind of an interesting thing to me, that they both score the same, because it's all based on the ELO factor.
I think orders and points are all balanced around 300, so that's still going to always be the sweet spot, but lots more flexibility. We noted that the civilian rules were not in N3, and they were not in the rules supplementation annex, or whatever the hell it's called. But here, they have appeared in the ITS document. And so remember, civilians can't be hurt. Now it's just they ignore the effects. They get hit by a template, they hit somebody else, they ignore the effects. It does not cancel the template. You cannot use them as body shields, right? To cancel templates. The civilian will ignore the effect, but your dude that was sinking the civilian was with the civilian, still going to get hit by that template. They don't block line of fire. They don't set off deployables, and they do not generate AROs, because there was a while there where they had a civilian synced, and they would move the civilian out to draw out all the AROs, because you can't damage the civilian and then move out your second totally safe because all the AROs got used up. Civilians do not generate AROs, but yeah, full civilian rules now in the ITS 12 document.
Yeah, and it's pretty much what they kind of FAQ'd at the end of the last season.
It's a little bit more clear now, which I like. Because I'm loving that they're so kind of becoming black and white on the rules in N4, which is really cool. And it's funny to me, and I don't want to keep making the references, but it's like they've adopted very true-false statements with other variables that are added in. Like, seriously, that's when I read it, and I don't know if it's just because that's the way my mind is working all day, all the time, but I'm looking at, as I was reading this last night, because I was show prepping after 8 hours of school, and I was laughing because that's what it's like. I was like, wow, they're really trying to write their rules on to a system that can't have an opinion, honestly, and it's funny how that has aligned. So I don't know who they're talking to, but it seems like that's what they're going for, like, well, this is our requirements and these are the effects, and it's very, I don't want to say binary because that's not the correct word, but it seems that way as I'm studying something and then reading this, and it makes me laugh because that's the way it feels. Like they're setting up a way that something works, and then giving it the true-false statements to make it not break.
Each edition gets closer and closer to that ideal. Yeah. Synchronized Civilian now is a couple of neat changes. It's now a whip +3 mod. To synchronize Civilian, instead of a whip roll, you get a +3. Much more likely to succeed. And so civilians are all neutral, right? But if you fail a synchronized civilian roll, the civilian becomes hostile, which basically means you're going to lose that +3 to synchronize with it on a subsequent order. And remember, you can't do it if you are part of a coordinated order, if you're a remote, if you're a peripheral, or, and I'm sorry, Tony, if you are impetuous. You are not allowed to synchronize a civilian. Tony and I played, I think it was Rescue at Rumble in round 1 a few years ago, and I synchronized one of the civilians with an Ermendino, which is illegal because they're impetuous. So, eternal apologies to Tony.
Can I call out one of my eternal apologies at the same time then? To Matt Chafee. Remember when he came down? He was in Arizona from Cano Land, and he came to one of our local tournaments way back at Empire Games. So this is way far back, like early N2.
What?
Yeah, you remember that.
I have no recollection of this at all.
Oh, well, it's when I used a chain rifle on a Devil Dogs little, because it was right after US Ariadne came out, and I used a chain rifle on the Antipode Devil Dog, but the Antipode didn't have a chain rifle, and I bought him like beer after beer at the old place we went to that I can't even remember the name of because that was so long ago. And that's still the joke about me using because we had beers at that once. It used to be the old Cogburns. I can't remember the name it was because it was that long ago. He still gives me crap about that, which he deserves to.
And it's like Tim throwing smoke grenades with his ninjas.
Yes, just like that.
Fine. Stuff happens. The Kazivac skill appears. Looks like Casevac, but it's casualty evacuation, so I say Kazivac. I don't know. Say whatever. That's just like your opinion, man. Do whatever you want. Long service continues on through season 12. This is one we had in the last couple of seasons where when you're talking about the troop classifications, whether you're headquarters troop or garrison troop or all those different classifications, characters count as veterans for those scenarios that require, or classified cards that require somebody with the veteran troop classification. So long service, that's that special rule, and that sticks around. Brings us to the extras, Kip. So, like I said, I wanted to talk about the first one is escalation. And yes, the bonus is that you're a little more flexible with the new tiers, because you could do like 150 in the first game, 300 in your second game, 400 in your third game, or 200, 300, 400, or 200, 250, 400. Like, you're more flexible because of the different tiers, right? The issue from a tournament organizer standpoint is that they now mandate different table sizes to the different size games. And when you start you can't change a table size in a tournament that you're doing all in one day. Because are you going to strike all of the terrain, put down new mats, and then put all the terrain back up? No, you're not going to do that. Are you going to? You could mark your terrain mats out with like painter's tape.
That's exactly what I was just going to say.
For the other two size maps, but now you're giving automatic measuring to anybody in any of the games.
Kinda,
because they know like this is 8 inches here and this is 4. Like so. it's a horrendous. Like, I imagine that most TOs that do an escalation format are just going to say, we're doing all 3 games on a 48 by 48. And we're not messing with these little poster-sized maps because that's just logistically stupid.
So that it's funny that you said that too, and it's hilarious. This is the one extra I didn't write notes on because I was like, oh, it's straightforward. And as soon as you were like, well, what about the table things? I was like, oh, I remembered my thought process. I was like, oh, you just tape it off. And to your argument about, well, then people pre-measure. It's both sides get that same advantage. It's not a big deal. 'Cause that's exactly what I would do. And this came, you know what's funny?
But you're looking, I mean, for a 10-person tournament, and that's going to take 5 minutes minimum per table. You're looking at an extra hour of pre-tournament prep work.
To tape it off?
Like, no, yeah.
Just tape
to
it
get
off
all the measurements right.
it. I mean, no, I agree with you. It's extra work.
Yeah, to do it on one mat, it might take you 5 to 10 minutes. And then you have to do that to 10 or 12 or 14, you know.
Your opinion matters more than mine in this because you run far more tournaments than me.
You don't organize tournaments.
But it's I always go back, I always default to when you and I ran like our first big one, quote unquote, when we were like, let's just get DualCon. We're like, let's just get dots, and we'll do different color dots for all of the objectives. And we know that each color is each round, and it's super quick, right? And then we put them down first, and then you build the table around those dots. So I always default to that, and that's what I thought on this. I was like, well, you just go by and you just tape off that, tape off that. Yes, you're right, because you are the person that could set up 3 tables in the time it takes me to set up 1. And I think I did a good job, and I didn't, because you're like, dude, I've already set up 3.
Well,
and I'm like, but it's good, right?
But then you gotta multiply that time by
dude,
5 tables, 10 tables, whatever it is.
Like I said,
and all of a sudden it's an extra
way
hour,
better.
and you might not be able to get into your local game store that early, right?
Yeah.
It's already like an hour to set up enough tables and get everything ready, and you're lucky if you can get in an hour before the store opens to get it all set up. Now you're adding an extra hour onto that. And like, what are you gonna do that at home the night before and then roll up all your mats, take them in? Like, you're just gonna play all 3 rounds on a 48 by 48 because you're not changing.
I was like,
mat
this
sizes.
is why Tom runs all of our tournaments instead of us switching off like we used to. He's way better at time management on I'm way over optimistic on stuff. I can't like do the time like you do. You're on point on that.
The free game extra is the one where you ignore the limit on 15 trooper maximums. So it's just back to
but what's your
Infinity?
opinion on that? Because I actually have kind of a strong opinion on that. Well,
then say it.
More like a medium.
Speak your truth, Kip.
So the free game, I think, is we don't want to ruffle all of the feathers. We're gonna say that this is the norm, but we're gonna give the people the option to play the way they want to. So it's a very like keep the status quo so we don't piss everybody off thing. And for me, it's like, well, if the standard's 15 limit, then play 15. If every once in a while you want to play free play, that's cool. But I feel like having that option, like you do have those areas that are like, well, we'll never play 15, so they only play that way. But what if the majority of the community likes the 15, and if they ever travel out, that's going to be a big deal? I don't know. I mean, I think it's cool. I love the option because the option's there because you're like, hey, you can run ITS. If your area doesn't like it, that's fine. Play with the old way. But I like I actually like what the 15 max brings to the table on building lists, which there'll be new metas and new norms that come out of that, and this is the way to play at that level. It's inevitable. But I just don't want, like, I just hope that the majority of people don't just always default to free game Because as soon as you get put into a larger tournament that's not, it's like you're not really prepared for that. So I see why it's there, but I don't want it to be the norm.
Well, so several things on what you just said. I hope I can remember them all.
I can't even remember them all.
One
so
is their obvious focus for this edition of Infinity was to limit the number of orders by creating this artificial feeling 15 model maximum, right? And they ran Tactical Window for a season or two where it was an option that gave you the 15 model limit, and it was so popular that now it's the actual game itself in its raw form. And so I'm sure they will do the same thing this season, is where they will monitor what extras are used. And if there are more tournaments played with free play than there are played with Tactical Window, then I'm sure that's, a philosophy they'll waffle back the other way on. I agree that it is good to have the option so that people can, still play their old army lists or as close to it as possible with the new points and whatever else. But, if you're used to running 18 orders of your Haqqislam, you can still run 18 orders of your Haqqislam in the free play mode. And but I think their focus on this edition was, we want people to take the bigger, cooler, more powerful stuff more often. So we're going to make armor better in the game by changing the crit mechanic. We are going to limit you to 15 models. And that way, a person who wants to run 10, a limited insertion, sort of 10 order list is not as is not as such a disadvantage against somebody who's running 20 orders, doubling their order count off the bat. They're not going to have to worry about somebody facing off against somebody with 20 or 40 orders, Warlock spam. They're not going to have to worry about that. They can just play their 10 lists and be fun, whereas 15 is not that arm-wrenching, that you can still do your order spam type of stuff and still run 15, but it's not backbreaking to the players who wanted to play 10. So, sort of clearly their focus, but here they've given you the option to do either way. And as far as like not being prepared or whatever, I mean, what extras the tournament has before you sign up to join the tournament. If you are anti-free play because the 15 brings everything in balance and more enjoyable for a wider variety of players, then if a tournament's running free play, you don't have to go to that tournament, right? It's not like you're not going to be prepared. You're going to know in advance that that's one of the extras that they're doing. So,
yeah, I didn't mean it to be that unprepared. I want people to like embrace the fact of those 15 orders, because going back through all of the armies that I used to play that were high order count, I found it more fun to be able to take things that I always thought was cool. But when you have to be like, well, I'm going to face 20 orders here, so I have to cut that out so that I can just like maybe save this Reese.
Get 3 more flash pulse bombs.
And hope for that one model that you put in then survives, because once they die, then you're just left with things that can't really do anything. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and the other side of that is they can do stuff because even a combi rifle is still deadly and blah, blah, blah. Although, with the new crit rules, a combi rifle is less deadly to a Jodemin cover than it used to be.
So I like the new way better. That's what I'm trying to say.
Spec Ops remains at 12 experience points. Soldiers of Fortune is back, and it's the same thing where it costs you an SWC, so your list is going to have 5 SWC instead of 6, in order for you to be able to take up to 75 points worth of mercenary troops in your list that are not normally available in your sectorial or army list. There is a new extra called Reinforced Command. And this extra means that loss of lieutenant is never applied throughout the tournament.
Super interesting to me, by the way.
Yeah, so on the one hand, it's like, okay, great. I can run super aggressive lieutenants that have extra orders and big guns and stuff that I normally might not use because I'm worried about going into Lost Lieutenant and I don't have chain of command in my faction to back them up or whatever. So there's that real positive side of it, right? The negative side that I see is that Infinity has they barely dip their toes in the water of command and control, right? Where as far as morale and that sort of thing goes, it's like you have to take guts check if you get hit and survive, and there's a retreat threshold. Like really, the only thing is loss of lieutenant, and now they've barely dabbled their toes in it, and now you're taking part of that away. And I know that some people really enjoy the command and control aspect and kind of wish Infinity had more of that to better simulate reality, whatever. So I see a positive and a negative on reinforced command. I think the positive outlook is way more fun.
That's the way I saw it, yeah.
Right? I am gonna take my hair on fire lieutenant with a giant gun and run him around with his extra order and murder stuff until he dies, because it doesn't matter if he dies. That's just fun.
Well, that's what I wrote down is the purpose. So the purpose of reinforced command in my mind is like, hell yeah, it's playing on the new 15 order limit. You want people to take the things that are really cool and really awesome, but in certain situations, you're like, well, in the old quote-unquote meta, people aren't taking because they're like, well, we have to be efficient in this way because everybody else plays this way. So the reinforced command plays on that 15 limit because you're like, hey, now you can take that really cool lieutenant that you just want to go balls to the wall with, but everybody else is doing the same thing. So the playing field is even, and you don't have to take your 3 Ghulams to quote-unquote hide the lieutenant because it's not a thing. It's not a big deal. Like, it's not a tactic in this plugin to basically steal a turn from them. It does make Alpha Strike a little bit scarier, but we now have the put 'em unit in suppression fire. So you could have, hey, if you're playing So Phalanx, you have Ajax out there that now has mimetism that's that's literally suppressing against your big ass dude, and another big ass dude's coming at him. Like, it's just it's fun, and it lets people just be like, this actually takes me back to like the N2 days where it was like, let's just kill each other because there was no ITS, and it allows you to be like, well, you can't take more than 15, and we're doing the no loss lieutenant, so it's literally going to be the heavyweight championship of the world today.
It's actually more intriguing on missions that have a lot of button pushing to do, because one of the like if you're going first, if you go up and murder their lieutenant turn one, you're guaranteeing that they have a lost turn, and they just aren't going to have enough orders to complete the mission and get their objective points because you've taken out their lieutenant. And there's a bunch of people out there who probably really hate this idea because their main strategy is on turn one, I know who your lieutenant is, and I'm going to find him, and I'm going to kill him.
That's what I was getting at.
I have a very particular set of skills.
About like taking away the assassination.
Yeah.
Like you take away the ability to take away a turn from your opponent. So now it just becomes like a bloodbath, and that's fun.
Now you actually have to play the mission, and actually push all the buttons without hamstringing your opponent from doing it first. So then it kind of becomes more tactical because you both have to actually play the game instead of, I'm going to play the game by disallowing him to play the game for at least one turn.
Man, I suck at explaining those things. That's what I meant. It was like taking out the Alpha Strike aspect is what my big thing of this was. Because now with the second turn allowing you to, which thank you Corvus for listening to the community and us about using that command token to put a model in suppression fire. Like on a reinforced command, like sometimes going second might even be way better because you're not going to end up in Lost Lieutenant. But then you get to start a model in suppression fire. It takes out the Alpha Strike because you're like, okay, who are you killing now? You're going to protect your big guns You don't have to worry about protecting your lieutenant. And it's something that you have to take, right? So it's the same thing with the old Haris and the old fire team rules that they've been getting rid of. So I really like this a lot because it removes the ability to break your opponent's legs, by the way, you know? Like, well, I need to make sure that they can't play as much as I do. Because that's how Infinity is without this. If you get first turn, you're really trying to make sure that your opponent can't play as much as you do. And that's how you win. Well, I'm going to take away their first turn. And then who do they have left? Well, I've put them here, so let's suppress them there. You know what I mean? Like, usually in Alpha Strike, you're trying to make sure your opponent doesn't get as much game time as you do. I hate that I always go to, like, football commands now, too. I mean, commands. Football references too, but yeah, again, the school just came through with commands and other stuff. It's called clock management, time of possession. If I can possess the ball 75% of the game, I'm gonna win. If I limit you to 25% of total time offense, I'm most likely gonna win this game. That's how Infinity is right now. And it's funny is that's why and Tom and I are huge football fans. We actually can get that aspect because it's pretty much the same thing, and that's what Lost the Lieutenant and then finding out chain of command and knowing other army lists. It allows you to actually dictate the time of possession of scoring points. So the fact that they've limited model count, the fact that they've added these like reinforced commands, I think is phenomenal because it takes that aspect out of the game. It doesn't let your opponent dictate time possession as much as it does now. So I that's one of my favorite things. Like, honestly, I love this in comparison that everybody's going to have the max. It's basically a salary cap, right, of models that you can take. So I'm super excited to play like on that even of a playing field.
The next new extra is called Double Deck, where you mix your red and green classified decks. You shuffle them together as a single classified deck.
I'm laughing because this is like highly classified on steroids.
Well, it's
Oh, man.
so I've complained in the past that the extreme deck, the red deck, is just you have to do what the green one said twice. There wasn't anything really creative, or it's not harder tactically. It's just harder resource management wise.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really really wasn't very interesting to me as a mechanic. So now you shuffle them both together. Now, used to be like, oh, I drew really easy classifieds and you drew really hard ones, right? Now that's quadrupled. Like, not only did I get the really crappy classifieds, I got the red version of them, whereas you got two green ones that were super easy. And this is supposed to be an evenly matched. It's no longer an evenly matched game. I don't like it at all.
I'm laughing in the background for content because I think this is the most ridiculous thing ever.
Really don't have much more to say about it than that.
Yeah, I'm going to read my notes verbatim. Double deck. Arrow to the right. Use the entire deck. 6 dots because that's me thinking of why. This is
the rare double ellipsis.
Yeah, right. This is the best extra to use to piss off all of the players that despise disadvantage from random variables. A lot of exclamation points. It's ridiculous. Like, there's always been pushback about these random variables in the way that ITS is scored. This is probably the worst extra and could be removed tomorrow and nobody would even care. I can't stand it. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know who came up with it. If you came up with it, I really don't want to say that it was a bad idea. I would be like, hey, I would like to ask you why you thought this was a good idea and then get your opinion on it because I do love our peeps at Corvus. But no, this is the worst thing I've ever heard of. Like, we've gone through all of these changes in ITS, and we've heard all of everybody's arguments, and it seems to be that the random missions are the least favorite because it doesn't call on your skill of how you play the game. It calls on a basis of luck. And this is just like hey, we're going to just shoot that with heroin and see how that works. It's going to be passed out in a dumpster and nobody's going to want to touch it. That's what's going to happen. Like, it's as ridiculous. You take the...
Don't like it.
I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. You know, I'm going to take this. Like, sometimes, Ian, love you, Mr. War Game Trader. There was rules that came out that they weren't classified. He's like, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. That's how I feel about Double Deck. You're like, nope, I'm out. That's over there. Not touching.
The final new extra is CQB, Close Quarters Battle, where all ballistic skill attacks at a range of more than 32 inches automatically fail. So this is a great extra if you play an army that wants to be real up close and personal. You got a lot of infiltrators, you have a lot of war bands, you have a lot of chain rifles. Good for you. This is going to be excellent. But if you play a high ballistic skill faction with long range weapons, you're like, I'm not playing in that. I want no part of that. I want to snipe that Morlock at 48 inches. Mm-hmm. I don't want him any closer than 48 inches. That's why. I don't like a thing that favors certain armies over other armies, mm-hmm. and this is one of those things where the long-ranged firefights, and that army can still go up to a table where there just are no long-range fire lanes, and they're in a similar pickle, mm-hmm. right? That's why we say, yeah, there should be dense areas of terrain where warbands can advance, but there should also be some fire lanes. That way, both armies get to operate within their advantage.
Yep.
Whereas this is like, okay, anything over 32 inches auto fails. No, thank you. No, thank you. I guess maybe be like happy little fun. Like, I would not want to see this at a major tournament for sure, but maybe one of your 12 yearly tournaments, right? You play the CQB just so that everybody brings a different list than what they've been bringing all year long, right? Mm-hmm. And they focus more on short range. But there are certain factions that don't want anything to do with close combat or short range firefights, mm-hmm. and so this also is not it's not nearly as egregious as Double Deck as Dumb Ideas, but not a huge fan of CQB. What do you think, Kip?
I actually think it's super fun. And there's a couple ways that I think it's fun. It's fun to do, like, hey, this week we're going to do a breach mission, so everything's going to be... and you say, I keep saying CBD. Super easy, man. We're just going to be the dude. Just take your close stuff, man. We're just going to be all up close and personal. But, yeah, it's super fun to, like, add in. And even in, if I was going to do it, like, and when I think of major tournaments, I'm going to think of our, like, dire states. Like, are we going to do this at Armageddon? Are we going to do this at Rumble? Like, what would that look like? What if you were going to do this in a high-profile tournament like that, like those that I mentioned? Like, it's your participants would have to be notified ahead of time, and your mission selection would have to accommodate the fact that people are going to take a list for normal and a list for the medical marijuana, the CBD. CQB, whatever it is now. Yeah.
If it's an extra for a tournament, it applies to all games.
Okay, so never mind on that.
Yeah, I think it's fun for certain people, and I think for other people it would just be entirely frustrating mm-hmm. and not fun at all. That's why I don't like it. You want things that are fun for everybody. Double Deck, fun for no one. Mm-hmm. CQB, fun for certain people, not fun for other people.
At this point, we lost about 10 minutes of Kip's audio, so it's going to be real choppy for the next few minutes while we piece together bits of just me talking until we get Kip back and participating again. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Anyway, the classified deck, there's not a new classified deck, but there are some language changes to deal with the language changes to N4. Like, for example, removing the word medjector from the cards because it doesn't exist anymore. Stuff like that. However, there is one substantial change to the classified deck, and it's Predator. Predator used to have has the text where you have to kill 2 models in close combat, right? And coup de grace did not count, and they say remove that text. Remove the text that coup de grace do not count. So Predator coup de grace, a model that's unconscious, you walk up and base to base, slit its throat, and it's removed from play. That now counts towards your 2 close combat kills for Predator. Hallelujah, amen. On the missions list, and we're not going to talk about specific missions. We'll do that later for the 2 new ones. But on the missions list, we have lost 3 missions from last season. We have added 2 brand new ones never seen before in the ITS, and then we have brought an oldie. I was going to say oldie but goodie, but I don't believe that in my soul. So we brought an old mission back that was gone last year. So gone are hunting party, where you had all the adhesive, all your veterans got adhesive launchers, and you had to not kill but immobilize people and whatnot. You had Show of Force, which was the tag mission, and Transmission Matrix, which is the 5 repeaters. So okay, we're going to make hacking way easier, way more intuitive, streamlined, and more effective, and you can spotlight an ARO, and hacking's going to be awesome, and we're going to take away the hacking mission where you could really leverage all of that. So Transmission Matrix gone, Show of Force is gone, and Hunting Party is gone. They have added 2 brand new missions. One is called Mind Wipe, and one which is another objective room mission is called Panic Room, and we will do an episode each on those in the future because they're brand new. And then making its return to the ITS after a brief hiatus, Rescue is back. Yay.
Hey, but it plays in the fact that there have been so many HVTs that come in a lot of boxes, whether it be Dire Foes or RPGs, so...
That is the mission I am the worst at. I swear I haven't scored...
Yeah, no, I
might have scored 4 once, and that was probably the one where I cheated Tony by using an Ermendino.
That's funny.
To sink a civilian. I think my high score on Rescue might be 1 in games where I have not cheated.
Rescue's it's funny too because it's so rough, but I like it.
I'm so bad at it.
But here's the funny thing. Do you know what I've scored the most points on Rescue? What army I've scored the most points in Rescue with it was?
Steel Phalanx?
Druze. No, Druze. And people want to crap on Druze.
Not a lot of smoke in Druze.
I know, but I have done the best with it because of the using your group 2 as a support to clear lanes. It was almost like, hey, your job is to clear the lane. This job is go here. Like, it was probably the most tactical, if people like to love their tactical advantages. Like, my Druze army was the best army I've ever played on Rescue, man. Because I had my support cast and my do your job cast, and it worked. I'm a firm believer still that Druze are amazing and super competitive. So I love that. Only reason that I took second that Salt Lake Showdown was because I effed up in 1 round. They're good, man. They're good. Just because they don't have a lot of options and tricks doesn't mean they're not good. They're really good at what they do.
So we talked about the baggage rules when we went over the changes from N3 to N4 in the rules.
I wish you could see the meme face.
The 20 points, they were worth 20 more points, right? So you could make a 300-point list with 2 baggage units. That'd be a 340-point list. Well, and that disappeared from baggage in the N4 rules. It makes its reappearance in certain scenarios where where you have to score areas. And so baggage will add its 20 points to its given quadrant or sector in those missions. So you can still do your 2 8-point baggage bots on the flanks, move them up into those quadrants, and have 28 points automatically in those quadrants. So that still works. That's still great. There's a new rule in certain scenarios called localized decompression, where during deployment you throw down a couple of circular templates, and whoever kept deployment has to place theirs first, I think it is. And those circle templates that have to fit flat on the table are areas of 0G terrain. So, okay, it's themed, right? But Starmada, Cosmofloat, all these new sectorials are getting all these models with 0G, whereas everybody might have had one or two or none. And so it'll certainly give advantage to those newer armies that are coming out that have tons of 0G. It's fine. It's all right, I guess.
Man, I miss that.
I don't love it
because
again, it doesn't affect everybody equally. So
I totally miss that.
So yeah, like Nomad players are like, yes, please, let's have more of that, so I can get extra movement on all my 0G guys. Again, like I said, it's just what I was talking about earlier. Like, I like things that benefit everybody equally, and this benefits some people more than others. So, not a huge fan, but you got to market your new sectorials, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even see that, and I'm yawning in the middle of that because I didn't see that. Like, how is that something that could be so huge in one mission that's not even like...
It pops up in a few missions. I just sort of scrolled through all the missions to look for new headings and new titles of rules and stuff, and that's one of the new things. We'll talk about it more when we do a mission that has it, but sure.
So, like, this is... And I love when we do stuff like this. It's really organic because we're going over it on, like, your initial factor. You're like, well, let's see what's really changed on the scoring front. And if you can't really just dive into mission after mission, like, that's something that's like a left hook out of nowhere, right? You're like, wait, what the heck? This is here? Like, why not put that... Like, that needs to be in a section of, like, new rules for missions. They're not going to be in every mission, but people should be aware of them, right? Which is what everybody was fighting for in the nested rules. And there goes my ding.
Well, it's it's specific to certain missions, and it appears in the mission. It's like
but in an ITS document, that's not a bad thing. It's
like Firefight
hey, these could pop up.
It's like Firefight having the designated landing area, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's in that mission, so they put it in that mission. I'm fine with that.
Okay, you know what? I will. That is a very valid point. I'll give you that. I haven't yet even looked through every special mission rule because I was like, we'll dive into missions later.
I just sort of scrolled and skimmed. But
a huge thing.
Another thing I picked up was the panoply charts. Are a little bit different, right? Because it was just like roll on booty, right? And now,
but I like this change. See, I saw this change.
Now there's a chart in the mission, which is great. It's something I always wanted. Like, if you got all this room, just put it in there. So the chart is in there, and a couple of the results have a separate, like if it's a tag that activates the panoply, they get a separate. They get a separate result. Like they'll get total immunity instead of +4 armor. Or if it's anybody else, they get +4 armor if they roll a certain number. But a tag, instead of the +4 armor, they'll get total immunity. And so, or +1 burst, so you can get your burst 6 hyper rapid mechanics.
Right.
Now we need another die for every single faction die set that I bought.
You just need 10 D20s. That's how it works. But no, I saw that and I loved it. I was ecstatic about. I was like, that was needed. Because some of those, like, I'm armor 14 now. It was cool, but then crits happened. But
I'm a tag on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I like the way they did it now. It's way better. Way better.
And I know I said we're not going to talk about specific missions, but one thing that I noticed in the armory is that so the armory, there's a 8-inch by 8-inch objective room in the center with a door on each cardinal direction. And
I love how you said cardinal.
Kip is wearing his
know. I am
Cardinals
wearing,
polo
yes.
shirt tonight.
I am. I look like I'm a representative.
Yeah, north, south, east, west. There's a door, right? And if you open one door with a specialist, all of the doors automatically open. And so that never seemed like a good idea.
It's horrible.
Because so you would try to find ways around that. And ways around that were the lock picker program on a hacking device, which no longer exists, where it would only open the one single door. The other way around it was to use an anti-material weapon to destroy the door so that you could get into the armory, and you would only destroy the one door. And well, the doors no longer...
Or you blow a hole in the wall.
The doors no longer have...
narrow gate that you can go through.
The doors in the armory no longer have scenery structure, so you can't damage or destroy any part of the doors or the armory. So they took that away. And lockpicker doesn't exist, so they took that away. So when you open a door, all the doors are going to be open every time.
Wait, I misread that then. I was like, thank God.
No,
and then you can't blow up the wall either?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
There's no stats for the building.
Sucks.
It's you open a door, they all open. Period.
You know what though? I'll tell you what, because that was my biggest strategy was well, if you get first turn, you get in there and nobody's going to get you out.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was not only yours, it was like our whole entire area. None of those doors got open simultaneously, almost never. Because you would either blow up the door or you would lockpicker it. And
so
then
whoever got the first turn set up the tar pit, and whoever got second turn pretty much was maybe I'll win.
Whoever got the second turn ran their warband with a chain rifle in there and took out the tar pit.
Yeah, you're yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm cool with that a lot because that was kind of a cheesy thing. Sweet, I won the roll. It's almost an auto win. It's not really an auto win because you could still get out of it. But yeah, it's not auto win at all.
You always get the last turn. You always get that last turn to run somebody in there to at least contest it.
Yeah,
as long as they survive. But so there's discussion on. So it's an 8x8 inch room. There are no rules against putting terrain in there. Now I think it's even more important than ever to have some sort of scattered terrain inside that objective room that people can use as cover, hide behind to get some sort of safety, because all of those doors are going to open all at once. And so set your stuff up to be able to shoot through that door once it opens.
I'm a huge fan of that anyway. That was my main thing. It's funny is I have scatter terrain in my main table's objective room that I forget is there until we actually pop the thing off because it's just permanently there. It's removable, but I just forget it's there all the time. So I do have a question for you, Tom.
Okay.
So you have taken over all of the tournament organization because you're better at in our area.
That's not true.
And
Sterling runs tournaments.
Wait, time out. I was saying because in the beginning, before the monolith, it was you and I, and we used to split. But I was like, Tom, you're better at this, so you did it. Yes, Sterling is very good at running tournaments. John is very good at running tournaments. Both of them are very good. I apologize for reverting back to the original days to where it was me, and then it was me and Tom, and then I was like, damn, Tom, you're way better at this. So hence why I don't run tournaments anymore. So yes, no discredit to Sterling or John because they're really good as well. But as the person that runs the most tournaments, I wanted to ask you about the rounds because we are also blessed and very lucky to when we run a local when COVID's not a factor and F-COVID, I hope that you die soon, you piece of crap. Their suggestion from 9 to 16 players is 4 rounds. And if we run a normal once a month tournament, there's 12 to 18 players.
Yeah.
And we only ever played 3 rounds. So my opinion is should we just make it a standard of 4 rounds? Not 5, but 4.
Well, it's been like this forever, where these are their suggested rounds, and the rules go on to say that tournament organizer can do whatever they want, but it can never be less than 3 rounds. And
yeah, that's the same thing, but
so, and yes, you will get more of a equitable result that more reflects players' skill if you do the suggested amount of rounds. However, just like doing a tiered escalation tournament where you have different size maps, logistically, it's super hard to do 4 rounds for a local tournament in a day. It's an extra level of commitment because you're adding in that extra 2 hours. And then you're going to have to take a lunch break because you're not playing 8 hours of Infinity without a lunch break. And so 4 hours is a really big commitment for just a regular local tournament. And it's way fun with just 3 rounds, even if it is 16 players. And everybody has a good time and nobody complains that, oh, well, it's, it suggests 4 rounds for this number of players, so I should have won, but I didn't get my extra round. We've literally never, ever had that complaint.
Yeah, we've never had that complaint. But I do want to ask you this, because I love that you said that, because that was the perfect response, because that's honestly, in most scenarios, that is proper. Like 3 rounds in one day is as much as people can handle. Because if you go to a tournament that's 2 days, the most you'll ever play is 3 days. But we're not talking about a normal tournament. We're talking about State 48. We're talking about the Southwest Super Meta Champions, where we might be able to play 4 rounds. Because I'm totally trolling all of the other states right now. But that's how close the competition is. So maybe like our local tournaments could be 4 rounds. Are you opposed to that? Because we are the State 48.
What I don't want to do. So I get it what you're trying to do, but
I'm joking, but still, like everything is so close. Like, do you think it would be more applicable to our quote-unquote meta to run a 4-round tournament as
what I don't want to deal with? So like when you go to a large event, you're there for the event, and so if you play 4 rounds in a day and 2 rounds on the next day, you're fine because that's what you're there to do, right? And it's fine, everything's fine. But what I don't want to deal with at a local level is we have a mix of the players that are there and they'd be happy to play 5 rounds in a day. Right.
Yeah, we used to do that at Rumble
because they're nuts.
5 rounds one day.
But and they're happy.
You
to
signed
do
up
that.
for that
but
madness.
You also in a local, just monthly fly by night tournament. You also, have your mix of local casual players, who I don't want to deal with the guy who's lost 3 games and he's like, I'm tired, I quit. Right? Because there's really no. There are no penalties baked into the ITS, and it's difficult to use the OTM when people drop. And the more rounds you do, the more likely it is somebody's going to drop. And I think 3 rounds is fine until you get into the big tournaments that are worth more, K value in the ELO score or whatever all that means. It's, at that point, you need to make it more legitimate with more rounds. But for even if it's 18 people and it's just a monthly tournament, 3 rounds is fine. And frankly, 3 rounds is just the most people can take.
I agree with you. I'm not good at playing devil's advocate, by the way. I was trying to, and I used to think I was a good actor, but I'm not. No, I put that as like one of my big questions for you, because we typically get you or whoever organizes typically at 12 to 16 players on just like a local fly-by-night tournament. And that's something we are very thankful for and are not like, well, we have this. No, it's just the area we live in, the place we live in, it's accessible. Not everybody has that, access to players that are willing to just jump in every week. So I wanted to ask you about that because like with the K ratings, I don't know, man. Like I still don't understand the K ratings. And I know they upped it to like it's a standard 32. I did the math on the back end and the plus side, but I don't think that it's going to make a effing difference whether you play 3, 4, or 6 rounds. So I wanted you to explain that in a really
just
educated manner. So like you did a good job. I mean,
it takes the tiebreakers out of it more because you will have a more likely tournament point winner. Whereas after 3 rounds with 14 people, you might have, 3 people tied with the same tournament points, right? And then it's coming down to objective points to break the tie. So you want a tournament based on, and if you went one more round, then you might have a clear tournament point winner. Where like the second place player may never have had an opportunity to play against the first place player for dominance. And then if you went a 4th round, they would have matched up. So yeah, I mean, that's why those suggestions are there, because it does make it more equitable, more fair. But 3 rounds is plenty. You're just having fun. Nothing matters. It's fake internet points.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what my next argument was going to be. I was like, well, no, that's my elo. But I've been in this. I've been in the ITS before it was an ITS. We had our own system before ITS was a thing. I even had like these cards that I used to use, like before we even had and we had a classified deck before it was even a classified deck. Yeah, you're right. Like sometimes it's. And if anybody wants to get mad, they get mad at me, because it's like we've been there from the beginning, and I can't. It still is around like who played the biggest tournaments. The point system will never be perfect, and I really have a problem with people fighting over their rank on the thing, because I still don't think it's perfect. So that's my biggest thing. Like I love that they like changed the point system, and I don't want to get into too much of the rabbit hole here, but it's like honestly, if you didn't win, it doesn't matter, because whoever won gets the model, and after that it's did you have fun? So it's a total Ricky Bobby situation when it comes to ITS. Like if you're not first, you're last. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you can't think about winning the whole damn thing.
That's actually a good point as it applies to the new tournament point table. If people are upset that somebody who lost can gain as much or more than someone who tied, right? A tie, I mean, you didn't win. The objective is to win, and you didn't win. So like you tied, but still didn't win. So yes, that's the point. It's person who scored a lot of objective points and lost by a fingernail may get the same amount of points as you did because you tied, but didn't have a lot of. They may get more objective points than you did because you tied, but didn't have a lot of objective.
But you
points.
answered that.
You didn't do anything, but you tied. They did a lot of things, but barely lost. Yeah, their quality of loss is better than your quality of tie.
Yep.
And tying is still losing.
Yep.
So
yeah, nobody wins in a tie.
Unless you're the NFC East.
The NFC least? That's what I've been calling it.
And then a tie is better than losing, which turns out to be worse than losing because you it's like 15 spots of draft position.
Oh, I know, that's insane. But no, that's my thing with this is there's so much leeway now that is I think better for the player experience because of the scoring. And in the past, it was just like, did you win? Did you tie? Did you lose? And it was not balanced. And the way that they're doing stuff now is kind of. But again, the ELO system is just like, I think that it's really good. But when it comes to like your regional winner, it's like whoever's won gets the thing and whoever's not, that's fine. And I still feel that it's whoever has the most access to the most tournaments has a better chance. So it's better than it used to be, but it still favors who plays more tournaments. And there's an argument Yeah, there's an argument to that too.
Yep.
So, well, I play more, so I should have more chances. And there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Yeah, it's the merit of I played in more tournaments. There, if you played in 4 tournaments and I played in 12, then I should have more points. But at the same time, are those 12 legitimate tournaments, or are those 2 legitimate tournaments and then 10 you versus your one friend
or your wife and your son?
So that is our ITS Season 12 breakdown of ITS Season 12 breakdown. And let us know your thoughts, especially on the things we had opinions on, like the Reinforced Command, the Double Deck, the CQB, especially CQB because we had opposite stances on that one.
Yeah, right.
Let us know your thoughts by emailing Tom at MayaCast.com.
And Kip at MayaCast.com.
Conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for episode 302. Never going to get it. And
never gonna get it.
And so
whoa.
We want to remind everybody about MayaCast Masterclass Quarter 4 going on now. We've got a bunch of entries in already, and so add yours to the pot. And since we have a new edition and a rebirth of Infinity, we want the rebirth of your miniatures. We want you to take an old miniature that you painted at the beginning of your Infinity career, and we want you to paint a new one and see how far your painting skills have come. Your before picture for this quarter, instead of a time-stamped, unpainted model, is going to be your original paint job from however many days, weeks, months, or years ago that was, and then paint the same model or the same kind of model. Might have been an old sculpt of Fusilier, and now it's a new sculpt of a Fusilier. Still counts. But we want a repaint. Repaint for the rebirth. And so take 4 beautiful shots of your painted model and 1 shot of your old original model and compare them and see how far you've come, and then send all 5 of those images in a single email to Tom at MayaCast.com.
And Kip, I am an idiot, at MayaCast.com.
And make sure to rename your 4 completed photos with your name and a number, like Kip Parcel 1, Kip Parcel 2, Kip Parcel 3, Kip Parcel 4. And rename those so we can put them in the gallery and give you credit when we do. The best painted model will win the coveted personalized MayaCast Master Glass, pint glass or a rocks glass with your name or your ITS pin, or name, ITS handle. Yeah, handle, that's it. On there, whatever you want. But the rest of the prizes we give away boxes, we give away blisters, we give away all sorts of stuff. MayaCast Mando tokens. We give away all kinds of stuff. And for that, you just need to participate, because all of the other prizes are randomly given away amongst all legal participants. So you've got until the end of the year, which is really like January 3rd, 4th. Whenever I find the time to put the gallery up, that is when the deadline is. But you have, bare minimum, you have January 1st as the deadline.
Yeah, I love this too, because all of the regular listeners, I love that there has been support on
where we've had some people being like, well, I'm not good at this, and all of our listeners like, just paint something. It's benefiting you. Everything is random. The coveted, like Tom said, Master Glass goes to the best painted, but we do this for a reason. Like, the reason we give out the random prizes for participation is because we know that not everybody's the best painter, but there's people that give that effort and they paint on a weekly basis and try to get better. And it's about just like playing the game, right? Like, you want to get better at painting, so paint. Like, don't be intimidated. And every other painting competition is like, who is the best painter? We only have one. They get the glass. Everybody else is random. And I think that we both have gone through a lot of trial and error in our lives. So we want to reward people for trying to at least improve their painting skills. So don't be afraid. Just enter. If you're the worst painter in the world, you actually could win a prize. And it's because you participated and put yourself out there. So I love that we had that support online too. It wasn't just us saying that. It's like, just put it up there. Doesn't matter. You put yourself out there, and then you can improve next time.
So thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the U.S. And we'll be back next week where we're going to hit up one of those new missions. Like, I think we'll do Mind Wipe next week and talk about that brand new mission for ITS Season 12. Thanks for listening. Until next time, get out there and support your local game stores.
To find out how you can support the show, go to patreon.com/MayaCast.
You can find us online at www.mayacast.com.
We are on Facebook at facebook.com/InfinityMayaCast.
Follow at Maya Podcast on Twitter.
Join the MayaCast forum group on Facebook.
And as always, you can email us at tom@mayacast.com.
And Kip at MayaCast.com.
Now it's time for a breakdown.
Never gonna get it, 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 never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it, never gonna get it.